All right, welcome to the Dental Marketing Secrets Podcast. This is episode 126, titled The Data You See versus the Data You Don't See in Your Practice. And, I just wanted to touch on the challenge that a lot of practices face because of their system that they have. Their practice management system doesn't show all the data when it comes to looking at your practice from a marketing lens. You don't have insight into everything. And that can cause some really big confusion. It can cause you to jump ship when you don't need to. It can cause a lot of frustration. And really, to give you an idea, there's this happens a lot in marketing. When you have a campaign running, you're looking at the data, you're looking at your numbers, especially what you can see in the practice management software. And that only tells you a fraction of what's really going on. You might see, okay, this month, man, we are really down in new patients. Our campaign must not be working. That's the conclusion that a lot of people jump to when they have limited data, right? Whereas if you have the ability to break that down, break your campaign down into steps and see, well, our calls are still up. Our lead form submissions are still about what they normally are, but our conversion rate is down, or we've missed a lot of calls. We haven't been able to respond to those calls, been busy, we've had time off for holidays, whatever the case may be. That starts to fill in the gaps of your story. It helps you paint a better picture, a more accurate picture of what's really going on. And that's why I think this is so important, is because there's this data that you can see easily and readily in your practice because of your practice management software does a good job tracking that data. Things like production, collections, hygiene appointment percentage, and reappointment percentage, scheduled treatment, things like that. But it doesn't do a good job of measuring those things like missed calls, or how many leads did you actually get this month? How many came from phone calls? How many came from web form submissions? Are you understanding that? How quickly are you able to respond? If you didn't answer the phone right away, what is your response rate? As we talked about in the last episode, converting more leads from your website. So much of it hinges on your ability to respond quickly, ideally in the moment when they call, or within 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes if they send an email submission. You want to respond as quickly as possible. But if you're not able to, one, see those metrics as a provider, as an owner of the practice, as a business leader, then your ability to act on those things and to measure and improve those things are really limited, right? Because you're not able to see those. You don't even know what your baseline numbers are. And that's where a lot of practices struggle, is just having the ability to track some of these basic numbers, this basic data, so that you can better understand your situation and so that you can improve your situation. So going back to our example, when you have a slower month, you can break it down granularly, step by step, and see, well, this part of the campaign is working really well. We're getting people to click through. We're getting people to pick up the phone and call. We're getting people to go to the website and request an appointment. But where we struggle is maybe it's right here. Maybe it's the converting to an appointment. Maybe it's we're not getting back to them soon enough. It gives you the chance to look at that and see, and I really uncover what is not performing well. And that's why this is so important, because without that understanding, without that data, without that ability to kind of zoom in on what's going on with your campaign, then you are left to make these these decisions. Well, should I abandon this campaign? Even though it might be performing really well in most areas, you just need to make a few tweaks. But if you decide to abandon that campaign, you could forfeit a lot of opportunity, right? Another story, working with a doctor who had this exact scenario play out. He had a slow month. It was actually about a 45-day slow period. I mean, getting some leads, getting some of these things, but he just wasn't converting. And as a result was about ready to just throw it all in and say, you know what? We can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing this. And long story short, we evaluated, we were able to dive in and see, okay, we're getting the click-through rates fine. It's actually above average. So that's good. We're getting people to click through. In his case, he was running Google ads, Google search ads. He was running ads on Instagram as well. And both of the data sets from there were positive. They were on track with what they've been in the past. So that was good. We knew that was working. He was getting the phone calls. He was getting people to pick up the phone. And as often is the case too with social media ads, he's getting web form submissions. He's getting people that send in their information requesting a consult, but it just wasn't lining up in terms of people coming in and converting into a new patient appointment. And so after we were able to go through that with him and show him that, hey, this is what's happening, this is what we're seeing, and it's still good. It's just give it some time. We could have reassured him that it will write itself out. And sure enough, it did. Within the next month, actually, it started to turn around. And with the next a few months, he had some really big cases come from that. He's some veneer cases, some of which were, I want to say, over 35,000 a piece. And so it started to get better fairly quickly. But the point of this story is that oftentimes when you lack that insight into the various aspects of your campaign, some of that data that you're not seeing, then it's easy to jump to conclusions. And as a result, that's why a lot of practices flounder. They're not tracking some of this data. They don't have visibility into that data. And as a result, they jump ship all the time. They start a campaign, they run it for 30, 60, 90 days, and it doesn't perform like they expected just because they're only looking at a limited set of data, and they stop doing it. And it's funny, I was talking with another doctor and just the other day, and he commented on how so much of this is just consistency. And I couldn't agree more. It's just continual effort, doing this again and again, putting in the effort to look at the data, understand what that means or what it's implying, and really trying to piece together that whole story and then act on that. What can you do to improve it? What can you do internally as a team to prepare yourself better to receive new patients, to make it easier for them to come in? Or how do we adjust our messaging based on what we're hearing from patients? All of that data, it's really a feedback loop, is when you look at it that way, it makes it so much easier and your chances of success go way up. But if you're just stuck on this limited data set that your practice management provides you with, you're going to struggle most likely, just because you don't understand the full picture. Okay, so what is some of the data that you need to track? And I just like to keep this simple. Ideally, you would have some software that can do this for you, but it doesn't have to be that complicated, really. I mean, it could just be simple things like how many phone calls did we generate? How many phone calls did we get in a month? How many of those went answered before it went to voicemail? How many went to voicemail? How quickly were we able to respond to those voice messages or missed calls? How many just total leads did we get? That's a great indicator of how well you're doing in terms of your marketing efforts, your outreach. Do you have an ability to track leads? And that can be something as simple as a Google sheet. Just any person that comes in from the website, you add them to the list, put the date down, maybe you want to find out where they came from. So you ask that question. Simple, simple, simple. I remember when I started a business right out of college, it was a photography business. And that's all I did is I would just keep track. Any lead that came in, I wanted to know where they came from, what date they reached out, how quickly I responded, and then did they convert or not? Just, you can keep it something as simple as that, right? But that's going to help you get a better understanding of, am I getting about the same amount of leads as I was the last few months? Am I notice a significant dip or increase in what I've seen before? So those ones. And then you can get into things like conversion rate. Some of the software does a better job with that. They usually don't do a great job, but they do sometimes do a better job with that. So even keeping it simple with some of the basic data, then it's going to give you much more confidence as you're preparing, as you're planning for the future, and as you're deciding, do I need to make an adjustment to this campaign? Do I need to pivot with my messaging? Okay. So many of the bad decisions that occur at a practice level when it comes to marketing are a direct result of inaccurate data or missing data. Plain and simple. And that's just because a lot of the software doesn't track that. So you can get software, like I said, there's plenty of marketing software that you can use, CRMs that you can subscribe to. There's tons of that if you want, but I would just keep it simple to start, because then you have a little bit more hands-on with what's going on, and you're checking it more regularly. If it's software based, then chances are then you might check it monthly, and then sometimes it's too late. Too late to make a decision or adjustment. But again, I always encourage people to give it a little bit more time to see what is it really like. Is it just a bad month in terms of people aren't searching as much, people are going out of town? You've seen those trends throughout your practice, your career, where people are just getting back into school, or they're just getting out of school in this case. And so they're heading out of town. They're not wanting to schedule appointments. They've got so many things going on in this particular time of year or this month that inevitably search volume goes down. You're not getting as many clicks. You're not getting as many calls. Fewer people are reaching out via the website. And so you've got to look at those too. So you take the data that you can get access to, that you can control, and then you look at also your past experience. Is this something that jives with what I've seen in the past to make the best decisions possible, right? So the bottleneck really is often hidden in the data that you're not measuring, you're not seeing. So just keep a basic Google sheet to start. Have your team track this every single week. I mean, it should be used daily, just as calls come in, as leads come in from the website, things like that. You want to track those things. You want to track number of calls. You want to track missed calls, number of missed calls, how quickly you were to respond to those missed calls, how quickly you were, just number of leads total, where they came from. You want to track your response rate to those leads that came in. And then just, did they schedule an appointment or not? Okay. And then how many times you follow up. You could keep adding on this, but just start small. I know I just rattled off a bunch of things, but if you keep it on one sheet, it's really, really basic. Missed calls, or total number of calls, missed calls. How quick did you respond to those missed calls? How many leads you got? Where did they come from? And then how quickly did you respond to those leads? Even that basic data set will help you make so many better decisions moving forward, help you detect or uncover those opportunities that are leaking out of your system and patch that up so that they're not falling through the cracks. Okay. So that's my, my tip for today. Want to make these, I'm trying to make some of these episodes a little bit shorter so they're more actionable. I've gotten some feedback that there's a lot of good information on some of the longer podcast episodes, but sometimes it can be too overwhelming to implement. So trying to make this a little bit more actionable. And this is one that will serve you so well. If you can track this data on a regular basis, it's going to give you a pulse on what's going on right now in your practice with your marketing efforts. See how that's trending based on your past history to know do I need to make some changes? Is this real? Is my panic that I'm feeling, is that legitimate or is that perceived? And then you can make a better decision moving forward. So the visible numbers tell you where you are, and the invisible ones tell you where you're losing growth. So that's the message for today. If you have questions about that, I'd love to answer those. Just reach out to our team. You can reach out to my assistant, Maria at markthackeray.com. And if you have any additional marketing questions, we are here to help. We love to help practices grow their practice to attract better, more qualified patients and to just improve their overall lifestyle. Because I know it's a grind, and anything that we can do to make it a better balance for you, we'd love to be a part of that. So thanks for listening, and we will catch you next week.